Hello and welcome to Shine, a series of videos that we hope will inspire and empower you. I'm your host, Sonja Shin, and today I am with Phyllis Clay Sparks to talk about forgiveness and why it's so important, what it really is, and how you go about it. Now, Phyllis is a motivational speaker. She's also the author of Soul Esteem, The Power of Spiritual Confidence, and the founder of the Soul Esteem Center in St. Louis. And you have talked a lot about forgiveness. I've chatted with you about it, and you have a process that you come up with that has helped a lot of people. So let's start off with first just, I think there's a lot of confusion. People know that it's important, but there's confusion about what forgiveness really is.
Right. Forgiveness primarily, for most people, has been something they've been told is holy to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you have to do to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness, from my perspective, is emotional detachment. And what I mean by that is that when you hold a grudge, or you hold even hatred, or you hold hurt inside yourself about something someone did to you, or about a situation that happened, you're holding that in your body, and you're literally plugged into that memory. And every time that memory comes to mind, you relive it, and you relive the hurt, and you relive the anger, and you relive the, whatever it is that's connected to that event in the way of an emotion. And it's been proven scientifically that emotions are molecular, and they get into the cells of your body and imprint themselves there. We call them mind viruses. And you will eventually outpicture those negative feelings in various, with various dis-eases in your body.
Yeah, I've heard that
lack of ease.
Even like cancer can be led back to
cancer is
resentment
typically associated with resentment, even if people don't want to admit that.
Sure.
Somewhere in their backpack of memories, there's resentment that has happened,
Mm-hmm.
that they haven't resolved. And so forgiveness isn't a matter of looking at somebody and saying, I forgive you,
Mm-hmm.
with the attitude of letting you off the hook for that dastardly thing you did.
Mm-hmm.
It's about working with yourself.
It's not for the other person.
It's not for the other
you.
person, it's for you.
And it's not condoning.
It's not condoning what they did. And that, unfortunately, is too often the case.
Mm-hmm.
And so people might be thinking they're forgiving and it's helping them be more holy or whatever, but that doesn't work either.
Mm-hmm.
So the key to whether you have truly forgiven or not is whether something can trigger that memory and make you feel those feelings again.
Okay.
And if it can, then you haven't forgiven.
Okay. So if you're still feeling angry or
yeah.
you don't want to see that person
That's
ever
right.
again, then you have not forgiven
You
that
have
person.
not forgiven. And you can say it all day long.
Yeah.
You can stuff it in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
But if it's still in your subconscious and it's still triggered by a memory or some word somebody, or by seeing someone or hearing somebody, and you relive it in some way, no, you haven't forgiven.
Okay.
So the process that I have come up with through my own experience.
Well, first, just on the importance
Okay.
of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically you're doing it for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're potentially you're harming your health if you're holding on to this
That's right.
resentment and other ways, because you project it against other
accumulative.
people.
It's accumulative. I mean, if you're not forgiving something or someone, it's not going to make you sick tomorrow necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually it will take its toll on your body, and that's been proven scientifically.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert, and she's the scientist that proved that emotions are molecular.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just something you feel and they go away.
Mm-hmm. And then it also hurts just, and whether you believe that or not, it hurts relationships. Everybody has felt misdirected anger.
Sure.
Like somebody explodes and then you're like, I didn't do this. I didn't deserve that reaction. Yeah. So it's just carrying something around, or you've been upset about something else. So that really is very harmful to you. And then, if you don't have relationships, that's not good for yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I do, because you may be somewhere where somebody hurts you and you didn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of go cancel in my mind when somebody does that. Or
Is it that easy?
Or I go, yeah, sometimes it is, if you do it in the moment.
Okay.
When it's going on. And sometimes I will say to myself, what you think of me is none of my business. Now that's a book title by Derek Cole Whitaker, so that's not my words, but I've used it as an affirmation over and over again. What you think of me is none of my business, you know.
Yeah.
And there's an old Buddhist proverb, I believe, that says, if you were to try to give me a gift and I wouldn't receive the gift, to whom would the gift belong? So if you don't open yourself and you learn how to deflect darts aimed at you, so to speak, yeah, you can do it in right at the moment it happens. You can deflect it rather than, and you can respond to it rather than react to it.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, if you don't know that, then you know there are things that we carry in our backpack, so to speak.
That's right.
And you have come up with a forgiveness process. Can you explain a little back on how you even came up with this in the first place?
I had an experience in my life for some time where a business partner just went off the deep end and began threatening our lives, my husband's and mine. And we walked around feeling victimized for so long, looking over our shoulder in fear. And finally, it got to the point where I needed to talk to somebody. I went to someone who was my spiritual mentor at the time, and I told them about this. I had to talk to someone about this. What can I do? And they looked at me and said, "How is he serving you?" And I got angry. You know, it didn't feel good. You know, how's he serving me? He's threatening me, and he's supposed to be serving me. But when I thought about it, I started journaling about it and writing down things that I might be looking at that person's forcing me to look at. And I can't be specific about it now, but I'm telling you that every encounter we have can teach us something. And the first step, before you can even entertain the idea of true forgiveness, especially if something's impacted you in a big way, the first step is to transform that adversary into your teacher. And so you start journaling and carry that with you, and it might take you a while, depending on, you know, I call it the emotional umbilical cord that we plug into that person or that memory. And some of those emotional umbilical cords are this big around, you know, so it takes us a while to whittle it down. And, you know, it doesn't always happen like that. So, but you journal. Well, perhaps this person is teaching me some patience. Or maybe this person is teaching me to look at myself in a different way. Or maybe this, you know, it could be just tons of different things that are personal to each person. It could even be yourself, where you can work on forgiving yourself sometimes for something you've done that you're carrying blame and shame around with you about.
Sure.
So the first thing is to journal and come up with some, and you'll notice that as you do come up with some ways in which that person is teaching you something or serving you, your heart begins to soften a little bit, and a little bit more. And pretty soon you can literally be willing and ready to truly forgive. And then I invite people to go into a meditative state, bring that person up to their, in their mind's eye.
So maybe if you're not familiar with meditation, a person, you know, like just
Just
focus
relaxing.
on your breath.
Relaxing, and we all use our imagination. If I were to say to you, close your eyes and think of an orange, a bright orange, with that's lumpy on the outside. Imagine how it feels, and then slice it open and imagine yourself licking it. You would salivate, right? Yeah. Or a lemon. A lemon's even better. So we do all kinds of things with our imagination. So using your imagination, just relax.
Okay.
Bring that person to mind. Imagine yourself walking up to them, looking them in the eye. And sometimes you even imagine yourself reaching out, taking their hands, and looking them in the eye and say, "Thank you for teaching me. I appreciate the lesson and I got it. You can stop now because I have the lesson. In fact, you know, I command you to stop because I don't need your lesson any longer. And I'm now inviting you to please leave." And you do it in a loving, kind way. You imagine this is all in your mind now, you're imagining this. Turn them around and push them, you know, gently to start walking away. And depending upon how big that umbilical cord is, they'll walk a little bit away. They do different funny things in your mind's eye. And they may even come back at first. But once the object of this is to get them to keep walking and disappear in the distance until they just vanish. And once they have vanished in the distance, you will be free. I've seen it work over and over and over again. It's like a miracle. And what happens is that person may not leave your life if they're part of your life. Let's say they're a coworker or a family member. They're still going to be in your life. But there's going to be something different, because everything out here in the physical world is effect. Our minds and our, the way we think about things and the way we approach things are cause. So if we set up a different cause, something out here, the dynamics between you will be different. Perhaps that person will leave automatically just for some reason. Maybe in the case of a job, maybe they'll get another job. You never know, but something out here will change.
And you had something pretty kind of miraculous happen whenever you went through this process.
And I, in my case, we went through this process, and it took my husband a little bit longer than me, about a week or two. It took me a month. It took me 30 days of doing this every day.
Okay.
So for me to get the person to disappear in my mind's eye. And once they did, I felt free. Nothing out here changed. He was still a partner. We were going through legal proceedings to separate from him and things like that. And but we no longer felt threatened. We no longer felt fearful. It was a whole different attitude, a whole different feeling. And his whole attitude changed when one day we had to get in touch with him for some reason. Instead of going through an attorney, we called him directly, and he had done a 180-degree turn. His attitude was more like the person we remembered in the first place.
And this is a man who threatened your life?
Yes. And then, not too many months later, my husband passed. He died, and I was sitting at the memorial service, and this person came to the door, and something prompted me to turn around and look. And he was standing in the center aisle of the door in the back of the room, and he walked up and he looked at me, didn't say a word, and he handed me a letter. And when I opened that letter, it was a eulogy about my husband. That was one of the most beautiful things you would ever want to read. It was like closure. So it was one of those things where I look back at him now, and because I've helped so many people with this process, I wouldn't have done that process if it hadn't been for him.
Yeah.
So you see, I have something to thank him for after the fact, that I wouldn't have put on that list when I was thinking of ways he's taught me. But he taught me a process and forced me to come up with it that have helped so many people. So I look back at him with a thankful heart. I mean, I'm grateful to him. I don't have any kind of negative emotional charge on him or his memory at all. So it's an amazing, amazing thing. Okay. And a real blessing.
I have one last question for you. I think there's a lot of people that still will struggle with forgiveness, and they're like, that is just what that happened. It's just unforgivable, whether it's, abuse to a child or, there's like, even like you said, threatening her life or something like that, or somebody is possibly responsible for a death or something. If somebody is just still having a hard time, they're like, I can't possibly see what would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend the same thing, because this person may be teaching you how to forgive, for one thing. But it's going to take a little longer. And I heard a story somewhere the other day about if you were to go out and you know how they have a bell ringer on the great big outdoor bells? And if you pull the bell and the bell starts swinging, and then you let go of the rope that pulls, that makes the bell ring, and if you were the bell ringer and you let go of the rope, the bell's going to go back and forth and keep ringing for a while. Bong, 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 bong. So forgiveness can be like that. It's going to bong in your head for a while, and in your heart for a while. But perhaps you can make it a little less each day.
So you feel a little bit of lightness, a little more lightness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So just do it each day, and then once you see them actually disappear and you don't feel that.
When they disappear in the distance, you feel the freedom of forgiveness.
Okay. Well, I love that. I've used this process, and I found it to be very powerful, and I've seen really cool things start to shift and change around me as I've gotten to this place where I just don't feel that emotional charge around it. So That's really cool, and I hope that this is helpful to a lot of
Helpful,
people. So
yeah.
thank you very much for sharing this
You're
with
very
us.
welcome.
Now, Phyllis is, like I said, she's the founder of the Soul Esteem Center, and again, she's the author of Soul Esteem: The Power of Spiritual Confidence. And you can learn more about Phyllis and even see some of the services that she leads, which are just profoundly inspiring. I love hearing your services. And so you can check her out and the Soul Esteem Center out at soul-esteem.com. And hopefully, I hope that this will help you in some way. And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Shine. I'm Sonja Shin. Until next time, we hope you'll be well and shine.